All right, so kind of continuing on here with the persistence question, right? What does it take for a person to persist from one time to another? That is, for the same person to exist at different times, right? What does it take for me to exist right now? What does it take for me to exist 5 years ago? What does it take to me, hopefully, to exist tomorrow, right? And then moreover, right, like what determines which past or future being is you? Okay, like this again, kind of like really heady metaphysical question of like, what are the things for me to be able to say in 5 years, if I'm still alive, that I am the same Bryce that I am Bryce as I was 5 years ago? Right, that's a tough question. What makes it the case that anyone at all who existed in the past is you? Right? And so this again kind of like asks a really good question of like, the fact that I don't remember, much of my upbringing. I mean, not that like I've had trauma or things like that, but it's just the fact that I don't remember every single detail of my upbringing. I don't remember every single thing that we did as a family. I don't remember every single thing that like trip we took. Like we went to Disney World when I think I was 6, or Disneyland, whichever one is in Florida. And there are pictures of me there, but like I really don't remember going. So like, did I actually go? Like right now, this Bryce, did I actually go to Florida, or was that just 6-year-old Bryce that went to Florida for Disney World or Disneyland, right? So like, how do we maintain? How do we kind of answer those questions? Okay. And this goes into number 4 for Olson of evidence, right? How do we find out? Pardon me here. Like, how do we find out kind of who uh, is who? Like, what evidence bears on the question of whether that person here now is the one who was here yesterday? Okay. What ought we do, and the different kinds of evidence support kind of opposing verdicts? Okay. Obviously memory is kind of the main go-to, right? Well, um, I remember being in class with you all 3 weeks ago. Okay. Like I feel like Bryce, I have that memory. Okay. If you remember doing something, or at least, seem to remember, it was probably you who did it. Another source of physical kind of continuity. Okay, the idea of like, if the person who did it looks just like you, or even better, is somehow, in some sense, physically or spatially temporally continuous as you, um, you know, uh, then you have reason to think that is you. Okay. Um, The evidence question, Olson says, dominated the philosophical literature on personal identity from the 50s to 70s. Though it is sometimes confused with the persistence question, they are different. What it takes for you to persist through time is one thing. How we might find out whether you have done so is another. Okay? If the criminal has fingerprints just like yours, the courts may conclude that he is you or she is you. But even if that conclusive evidence, having your fingerprints, is not what it is for a past or future being to being you. Okay? So again, thinking about this. Number 5 here, population. All right, questions of like, we are one of 7.5 billion. That's crazy, right? We are one of 7.5 billion. That is wild. Okay? And then, if we think the persistence question as asking which of the characters introduced at the beginning of the story have survived to become other ones at the end of it, we can also ask how many are on the stage at one time. If there are some 7 billion people on Earth at present, what facts, biological, physiological, psychological, or what have you, make that the right number? Okay? Like, how do we count people? How do we kind of count identities, if that's even a thing? Okay? So again, thinking about population. Number 6, and this is again kind of very, I would say, metaphysical in our aims here, is the idea of like, what am I? Like, what kind of being, what kind of substance am I? Right? Am I made? Am I again just another physical animal? Am I just another physical being, just kind of operating spatially and temporally through the world? Or is there something more to me, right? And we see this, again, kind of, manifest often in the talk of, like, soul, right? Well, the soul kind of persists, right? That my physiology may change, my mentality might change, but what will persist through time is this kind of continuous soul, okay? Others, without the religious context of a soul, might say it's the mind, okay, or something similar to that, okay. But again, like, what sort of things, metaphysically speaking, are you and I and other human people? What is our basic metaphysical nature? For instance, what are we made of, right? Are we made up entirely of matter, just as stones are, partly or wholly, right? Or is there something more, okay? Where, in other words, do our spatial boundaries lie? More fundamentally, what fixes those boundaries? Like, if I extend my arm here, does it mean that Bryce ends right here? Do I, like, is my identity finished right here at this end of my fingertips? Or, we're in my apartment right now. Like, is this all part of my identity? Like, where and how does my identity extend and then cease? Okay, and that's a metaphysically really interesting question, right? I don't necessarily have the answers. I have more questions to it, but it's still kind of interesting. My little cat is right here. And where does her identity begin and end, right? Hi, Small. Small. Hi. Say hi to Belief in Reality. See? Cool. That's kind of fun, right? But like, like my identity towards her. Okay, so like thinking about that and thinking, the fact that maybe we obviously we're different beings, right? Yeah. Number 7, right? And this kind of goes back to a question that we just asked a moment ago. But how, different could I have been from the way that I actually am, right? Which of my properties do I have essentially that make me essentially Bryce? And which are only, accidental or contingent, right? The idea of like it's a fact that I was born to who I was born to, and maybe that's just a mere contingency. It's random, right? And it's the fact that that's who I was born to, for better or for worse, that has shaped me into who it is that I am. And then if I was born to another set of parents, or if I was born even on a different date, maybe, right, that would change a lot of my identity, okay? Or is there something that regardless of who I was born to, regardless of where I was born, regardless of my upbringing, is still essentially me, right? What's going on here, okay? All right, so we're going to pause there, and then we'll have a third and I believe final video.